What's going on, YouTube? What's going on, the rest of the world? You've found us on a Friday, December 29th, 2023. I'm Zach with the Good Karma Group, and this is your cannabis breaking news and whatever else we want to talk about for today. So hopefully this finds you guys in good health, good graces. Your holiday, your Christmas holiday was good if you celebrate. And you guys are getting ready to go into 2024 with all the great cannabis news. I'm Zach, of course, like I've mentioned. I got a couple extra guests. Or actually, our host is going to be on for today. The first guy, friend of the program, always our co-host on the show. We'll bring him on, and he can be able to, I guess, talk to you about the success of the Seahawks over the last couple of weeks. I guess our last video we had this fellow over here giving his prediction about how he think the game went, and it was pretty damn close to where it was at. So Inglewood's finest, Washington's finest. We'll bring on my good friend Steve. What's going on with you, Steve?
It's going down, man. It's Friday, baby.
It's Friday.
Gotta do it.
You got anything you got to say to everybody in YouTube land before we bring on the next guest?
Man, let's just put in this work. Thankful for everybody. Thankful for anybody who's tuning in, man.
All right. Well, we gotta bring out MJ on the show, man. Michael Jackson of the group, man. So our next person I'm gonna bring out, another regular of the Good Karma Group, our podcast. The guy that has the best afro I've ever seen in my life.
All time.
One of the most educated people that you can be able to use as a resource for cannabis, as well as sports, culture, video games, pretty much anything else you want to talk about. He probably has a wealth of knowledge for it. So please help me bring out our good brother Kelly, Mocha Magic. How you doing?
Oh, real good. Keeping it moving as per usual.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Getting off that nice Christmas season, I'm feeling feeling like I gained a little weight, this time in the right direction though. So this has been a good little Christmas season for your boy.
Man, that's what I'm talking about. I love to see it, man. Love to hear it, because man, there's some people out there fucking up their goals right now. Bad. All right. Well, we hit the 2-minute mark, so we can cuss, smoke, do whatever you guys want to do. So have that without the algorithm fucking us up. So I'll get started and hit you guys with some of the newest cannabis news that just broke out the past week. The first state we're going to discuss is Georgia. So they have little areas, little cities that are deep embedded into Georgia that are also in Outkast songs. So the first time I've ever heard this city was in an Outkast song. They said East Point and Shaolin. I'm like, what the fuck is an East Point and Shaolin, man? I didn't realize after this. I read this article that East Point, Georgia, is actually a town in Georgia. I guess it's outside of Atlanta. So this East Point, this city in Georgia, becomes the 13th city in Georgia to decriminalize cannabis. Shout out to the Atlanta First News as our source on this one. What this enactment does is that it eliminates jail time for anybody that's caught with at least an ounce of cannabis. If you go over that, then it's still criminal possession. But anything an ounce and under, it'll be a $75 fine, or you can elect to do community service. So basically, if you're caught with an ounce in your possession, they know that the state is, still has cannabis or marijuana. They call it marijuana illegal. So this will be able to help if you are in East Point. You're not selling anything over an ounce. You get pulled over by the cops. You either have the choice of doing a $75 fine, or you can do community service now without doing jail time. This is the second city in Georgia this year that has enacted these laws, and there's 13 total. So there was 11 before 2023. The other town is, shout out to Camilla, Georgia. Wherever you're at in Camilla, Georgia, shout out to you guys as well too. I guess we'll start with Mocha. What you think, man? Being from the South, what's your first thought on that, brother?
I mean, it's going to be an interesting. I mean, we've kind of seen how that works, how decriminalization works over here in Washington, and I think a lot of these coastal states we've been playing around with decriminalization quite a bit, and I think we've largely seen the effects of it. I mean, I think it does prevent a whole lot of people from getting caught up for absolutely nothing. Especially in the South where that has just become regular. In my family, I've got a number of people who really just cannot stay out of jail, and oftentimes it's really just like a lack of opportunity. I mean, if you grow up in a town of 5,000 people, 10,000 people, 15,000 people, and there really aren't too many opportunities, and not just the standard opportunities that you, I, and Steve might consider opportunities where you've got business and entrepreneurial opportunities or places you can work, but also just you don't even have the opportunities for education, right? Like you never even learn what questions to ask, right? So I think in places like that, it is incredibly helpful, because oftentimes people are just doing what they can to survive, and I don't think we should penalize people too harshly when it comes to any drug. Even cannabis, I think heavy penalization doesn't really do too much. I mean, we've seen the war on drugs, right? It's not really a war as much as it is like, kind of like a complete and utter defeat, right? So, yeah, man. I mean, I think it's fantastic. On the opposite side of that, and just being fair, what it does is it does breed an insane gray market. So, that's something that is going to happen, right? That people are going to look for that same opportunity. And now that opportunity, it's going to be very difficult to get caught up if you're just rolling around with ounces. You're not, it's very unlikely that, local police are going to be funded in a way and directed in a way that they'll be using a lot of resources to find you. I doubt that that'll be the case. I'm sure it'll be like all the other states, right? So I think it has good effects and bad effects, like just about every other policy. In this case, I think in most cases, or I think in this case, for most people, I think it's probably going to be good, especially in a place like Georgia.
I agree. Steve, what's your thoughts on this, man?
First of all, bro, I can't get over that coat. That coat is so hard, bro. That coat is so. You got new meaning to Back to Fresh Fridays with that fit, man.
Hey, man, you got in the Pacific Northwest, man. You gotta make them moves with the weather. You know what I'm saying? You gotta have something clean with it.
Golly, I want to be Zach when I grow up, man. I'm pretty happy to hear that the South is getting their act together, man. I think that's going to be a very lucrative market for a bunch of cats like us. I feel like there's a lot of potential there. I feel like the plant could bring a lot of healing to a lot of people over there, man. Like Kelly was saying, a lot of people get caught up in the South. There's not as much opportunity as there is on the right side of the country or the left side of the country where we're from.
Hell yeah.
So
hell yeah.
Man, I think it's going to be a positive situation. It's also going to bring in tax dollars, which if you've ever been to the Deep South, I know Kelly has, I know, Zach's been there multiple times. I've been through there multiple times for cannabis related stuff, and it's different, man. They could use all the tax revenue they can get to build out their infrastructure. Their roads look a little different than our roads. But they also got a lot of positive, cool things going on there, man. The people are cool. The food's the best in the world, in my opinion. And, man, cannabis with that food scene, I think it's going to be a booming industry right there. And we can't, afford not to be, down there in some capacity. So I'm pretty excited to see the rollout down there and to see what kind of action we get ourselves into down there.
I mean, this is one good step in the the path going forward that they need to have, to be able to have an isolated city to be like, nah, fuck that, we ain't gonna go with the state standard. We didn't see that in Washington. So to see stuff like this, especially in some of the Bible Belt states, is is really is positive. It's positive in the right direction for us. I like what you said, Kelly, about the legalizing of other types of drugs, because that's going to be a theme that you'll see here coming soon on the rest of the topics here, but not this one I'm about to get into next though. So this one we're gonna shift our direction over to Colorado. So in the state of Colorado, January 1st, they are going to start having a air quote use by date. It's coming to every product in 2024. It's actually, let me give a quick shout out to the westword.com for this article here. So they didn't want to have an expiration date because it didn't really fit the definition of expiration on what they wanted to achieve by putting it on their packaging. So check this out. These rules were adopted in 2022. They're not taking full effect into 2024. So the rules were written, they were in policy, they weren't in practice though. So now they're saying, all right, 2024 is the year we're doing this shit, right? The use by date indicates optimal product freshness or desirability. So who determines that is still up in the air. The Colorado Department of Health Enforcement is in charge of this, as well as the MED, which is called the Medical Enforcement Division for Colorado. So you have these two divisions. I'm assuming the medical, section of it covers all of the cannabis portion of it. The public health and whatever they're called, the Colorado Public Health Department is also in charge of writing those rules, and these guys are in charge of enforcing them. So my question, first off, when I read the article was, okay, well, who determines the product desirability and the product freshness, and how long that's going to, quantify for? How can we forecast that out? Which is also the lawmakers' issues with this too. So I was reading about it. It says in light of the lung issues that was going on in like early 2022 with vape cartridges, this is where they determined that this rulemaking would be helpful with dispensary products. So now this rulemaking is getting grandfathered to apply to all of the other products that are going to be cannabis, but it was originally built to be able to address the public health issues that were occurring with the vape and lung problems that we were seeing early on, which wasn't even in 2022. So they took some time to be able to adopt these rules to make it work, and now they're going to be throwing it on here. Hearings in 2022, the MED officials, which again is the Medical Enforcement Division, they said that they push these expiration dates on products to further protect customers from degrading and potentially toxic products, which are prone to mold and microbial growth after harvest and manufacturing. I don't know for sure, but actually I do know for sure one stat that really stood out is there was 11 recalls the year prior, 2022, for mold or for microbial recalls, right? That upticked in 2023 to 18. So they had an extra 7 complaints or pullbacks that they had to have for mold and microbial growth after harvest and manufacturing has been in the store. So they're having a massive issue, sounds like, in Colorado with one, that lung issue that they were trying to have a public health scare that can be diverted, and 2, this mold and microbial issue is becoming a very big deal because it's sitting on the shelves for so long in Colorado. Steve, you want to start with your thoughts, man?
Yeah, man, it's really surprising to hear a state, Colorado. Technically, we were the first state, but man, it's like twins being born. They're born on the same day, pretty much. Yeah. It's, I mean, I'll kick it back to you fellas on that. How surprised are you by this? Because I'm quite shocked with the market that's as mature as Colorado, for them to be dealing with something like that. Man, something went pretty sideways.
It was mainly the mold and the microbial issues. It looks like that they're using now is they're like, well, we're only putting this in place because of it was already enacted. But this this mold issue in Colorado is really what they're hiding to be able to put this in. So that way, when you have customers that are saying, hey, I bought this, jar of cannabis and it has mold all over it, then when they bring it back to the state or they go back to the store, they don't have to, recall those whole lot numbers on. They can say, oh, well, is actually past due. It's the use date on it is expired, so we don't have to do massive recalls on this shit anymore. That's kind of what it seems like to me. But
Okay.
kind of interested what you guys think about that.
Yeah, man. I mean, think we can all agree that having any kind of mold issues can be a death knell to your label. I mean, we've all seen it happen in our industry. I've been at a, farm where it's happened before, and we took a major hit. We got it cleaned up, but anytime I hear that word, man, I'm good. I smoke so much product. I can't have that in any of my, products, man. So yeah, it kind of seems like what you're saying. It's, they're trying to bring it back after the fact. I'm not sure how that would work, return wise. So it's very, very strange that a market like that wouldn't have that, or, some sort of protocol already to clean that up.
Or some UV jars.
Or some UV jars. But yeah, I don't like that sketchy shit, man. Just like you got me on these disposables now, bro. It's the last one I'm gonna do.
Yeah, man.
Save that for later. But,
hey, man,
yeah,
just get them from where you know they come from, where they good. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, there you go. But
Kelly.
yeah, man, what do you think, Kelly?
I mean, I don't know if I'm too surprised by it, honestly. I feel like that is just, I think after national legalization, I think we're going to see what all three of us are going to feel are very insane regulations on cannabis. It's certainly mold and mildew and expiration dates and things of that nature. I mean, I don't know if I'm. Maybe I'd be more surprised if the regulations they're putting in place, put a significant amount of companies in danger of failing. That would probably surprise me. Because most of like the mold and mildew regulations that we've seen, they're usually passable. Usually, as long as your SOPs are tight, as long as you're running a clean facility and you're producing clean product, I mean, most of the time you can get by those mold and mildew laws. So I don't know. I guess it depends on how strict it is. It depends on the part per million that they're allowing and all of that. But I think it's probably just a good indication of what's to come.
Right.
Because I think we all know there's a lot of products in cannabis that if we're all taking a step back and looking at it from like the standpoint of just purely health, I think there's a pretty substantial amount of regulations that could be leveled. I mean, I could rattle probably like a dozen off right now. I don't know if it would make, certain producers or processors of these types of products very happy, but, the fact remains that there's a large amount of product in our market that is made with solvents, right? And those solvents are oftentimes found residually within edibles, concentrates, all kinds of things. And as much as I don't know as much of the science behind mold, or what molds are beneficial and what molds are perhaps not beneficial. I don't know what they're testing for, but I can tell you, some of these solvents are hydrocarbons, right? And some of them are pretty obviously a detriment to human health. So I think it's a good indication of what's to come. More and more health regulations aimed at, the end consumer ultimately not consuming products that the government, local governments, or businesses will have to deal with in 20 years, 30 years time.
Mm-hmm.
That was a beautiful breakdown, my man.
I totally agree on that. Yeah.
I just changed my whole opinion after listening to Kelly. Yeah. Start calling you the cannabis preacher, man. Damn.
Right.
That was a good thorough breakdown.
So
every once in a while I can pull something out the afro,
Let's go to Maine now, which is what we were talking about originally, about some of the new policy laws with dope, which is all drugs, all intoxicants, all vice drugs. It was a little bit of innuendo on an article I read about this one, so check this one out. apparently in Maine, if you guys are listening, holler at us, man. We can help you guys out. Like, we want to work with you guys. Maine is fucking crushing it. Apparently, they set another record for cannabis sales in 2023. They've been open, I believe, since 2020, I believe. But shout out to Marijuana Moment for this tidbit of information about them. They have their final quarter report, which they can be able to attach to their whole yearly stats. And like I said, they've been absolutely blowing everybody else out of the water. The first 11 months that they've been, oh, and actually they haven't been open since 2020. I don't know. I'll keep checking my notes. It's probably in here. But the first 11 months that they've been legalized for rec sales, they hit $200 million, according to their Office of Cannabis Policy, the OCP. So through November, they've reached $197,561,133.53. This OCP company, or this Office of Cannabis Policy, they list out the exact transactions, the dollar amounts, everything. There's been 3,434,477 transactions that have transpired since January 1 and November. 315,000 of those occurred in last month in Maine sales alone. Out of those 3.4 million, 315,000 of those occurred just. So they're going up. They're on the trajectory of going up on their sales. Check this part out. Average price per gram, guys, $7.81, or $27.31 an eighth, tax included, out the door price. That's their average eighth in Colorado, or in Maine. Sorry.
Okay.
Their November average was even lower than that. So their yearly average was $7.81. Their November average went down to $7.52 a gram, so it was just under $27 an eighth on average. Their leader in their market for SKU types is
wholesale, right?
Yeah, no, this is on the shelf.
Okay.
It's $27 an eighth on the shelf
Retail.
in a new market.
Uh-huh.
Oh, okay. I've got opinions already.
Yeah, so they're running $27 an eighth that they're selling to the customers, tax included for that. That's the average cost that the customers are spending on their eighth. Flour, of course, with that price is crushing everything else in their market. So that's the flour leader in market. So from last year, they said that this is roughly a $40 million increase in their 2022 numbers. So they were at around like what 150 million last year. So they lowered their price, and it's still going down. And they've acquired about $40 million increase since last year's number. And they still have one more. They didn't have the December stats either. This is correct. Yeah, legal sales did start in 2020. The director of the Office of Cannabis Policy, the OCP, he said that his concern right now is the low prices right now. Of course, the low prices for Maine businesses. He's worried that businesses are not going to be able to, grow and prosper. The growers are not going to be able to grow and prosper off of the low prices that they're having to be able to match up with their competitors. So August, there was a new bill that was signed that would allow cannabis business. This is how crazy Maine is. I want you guys to listen really carefully to this. So they had a problem. They said, hey, we're making a lot of money. We're almost at $200 million. We're $44 million or $40 million up from last year. Our prices are decreasing, and we're getting more growers into the market. So what do we do? Well, the OCP and the state of Maine decided to get a bill enacted that's approved that's going to allow cannabis businesses to take state tax deductions just like they would 280E. That's their solution. That was their answer to it.
Ooh.
Yeah. So this new policy, they also have a couple new bills that was on the Marijuana Moment that they brought to my attention too. There's a freshman lawmaker that's in their GOP right now that enacted a new bill that's going to protect the gun rights also for cannabis consumers, and is going to allow this new bill is going to allow the ability to increase the number of plants for personal use in your home, personal grow use. So you can be able to, one, protect your plant if you decide to grow it at home. If you want to go to a dispensary, you can buy it a lot cheaper than the rest of the places in the country. And you can be able to protect your gun rights. Also, lastly, the city of Portland has enacted a law that's going to deprioritize local law enforcement from enforcing psychedelic laws for plants and fungi, and treating the use of all drugs as a public health matter, not a criminal matter. So they're basically decriminalizing all drugs. They're going to make the sale of cannabis for dispensaries. They're going to put that on the bill to make that a 280E exemption, basically. And they're going to make all drug use as a public health matter. What's your thoughts on that, Kelly?
I mean, there's a lot there, man. There's a lot. I mean, my initial thoughts was, 8's that low, non-wholesale, that early on in a market sounds deadly for a market. Certainly sounds deadly for producer processors. I mean, before they've even really started to compete, they are already pinching pennies. That sounds brutal. The law that they enacted is interesting. In fact, I mean, I love it. I love it just because I think states will probably look at this implementation and they will probably take note of what works and what doesn't, which is probably good because there's a lot of states, there's a lot of states that frankly just have a tax that is far too high and is killing competition, it's killing companies. So that'll be great for people to start experiment with that. The large scale kind of decriminalization of all drugs, I'm fascinated to see what happens here.
Yeah, me too.
I honestly, I don't know what that really means, to be honest with you, when they say it's a public health matter. What does that mean, right? So if it's a public health matter and I just, happen to go down to the local, I don't know, I'm going to pick a weird business, the local O'Reilly Auto Parts, and I sell one of the people at the counter just like a kilo of something mysterious that is definitely not legal. Is that a public health matter? Is that how that works?
Right. Basically, it would. They wouldn't take you to jail for it. It sounds like, because it would be they're talking about decriminalizing it. So if it's a psychedelic plant or a fungi source or cannabis, then they're going to treat that. So I think the better, or not a better situation, but a more understandable situation would probably be those guys that are like ODing off of something or tripping off of mushrooms in their car, and they're sitting in a parking lot in that same O'Reilly's, and the cop shows up to their car. They have it legally parked. They're not driving. They're not causing any other crimes. They're only hurting themselves by doing whatever they're doing and tripping. They're not going to be able, even if they had the possession on them, they wouldn't be able to arrest them for possession of that narcotic or that drug because it's decriminalized. They would take them to the hospital.
No, I prefer that, certainly. I just, I wonder how it works for the dealers of said drugs.
I don't know about that. I
mean, that's more the fascinating part to me, because it's not like the economics just grinds to a halt and everybody's like, all right, let's stop selling all this stuff. I mean, people are just going to keep selling. So how does that work? Does that open up a market for, illicit substances like cocaine and MDMA and, partially illicit substances like, fungus and, or magic mushrooms or whatever you want to call it, psilocybin or whatever, does it open it up for everything? Does that how it works? I mean, if that's how it works, I have no opinion other than I'm fascinated to see what happens. Really. Absolutely. I mean, I really am. Because my thought initially is, okay, so then, the people who are suffering, from drug abuse and ultimately mental illness and, may or may not wind up on the street, these people will have a much better safety net for them, right? That's my initial thought. But then my second thought is, okay, well, who gives them the drugs, right? Like, who's giving them the fentanyl that is ultimately killing them on the streets, right? I mean, it's China is sending it overseas. It's coming through South America, coming up through the United States. What do those dealers, are they now a public health matter? Because if that's the case, I can't imagine that, there's going to be a slowdown of fentanyl deaths in that state. I would imagine it would go up from here.
Yeah. There
You
has
know,
to be some type of enforcement at some point on some level.
there's got to be something. Yeah, there's got to be something.
I definitely.
Otherwise, it's chaos.
There's a lot of questions that are going to be open, that are going to be answered and going to be opened with it. I feel like, when you look at Maine, I mean, they got a lot of money now, and they got a lot of people's opinion because it worked with the cannabis. And I think that, when you look at the states when they were starting to legalize in a lot of major states, that was some of the, I wouldn't say propaganda, but that was some of the stuff that was coming out there of like, hey, if we legalize cannabis, are they going to legalize all drugs? And a lot of people were in DC lobbying for that, and now we're seeing the fruition of that, some of that. So I think it's going to be one of those ones we got to wait and see how, if that public health issue is going to be actually enforced and addressed. It's going to open up a lot more rehab centers and things like that, and more occupations that and jobs that are going to be geared towards that too. So hopefully, if they do it the right way, maybe this could be a farming program where you could be able to take the addicts, put them into the mentorship program, and be the counselor, hopefully, of some sort. Maybe that's where we're going to see. Maybe not in Maine, but maybe on a federal level. I'd like to see some of that. What about you, Steve? How you feel about this, man?
Man, like Kelly said, it's a lot to unpack. But I believe this has already happened in Oregon. Oregon decriminalized every drug, and it is a complete and utter shit show. So much so that Oregon is in the process now of reversing that, because parts of Portland have become the Walking Dead, literally.
Yeah, man.
So
bad,
the caveat there is if it's decriminalized, that means if you get, well, the way Oregon has it set up is, look, man, we're not going to arrest you for doing that shit, but you're not supposed to distro it. It's very different. So you can have it, but don't be pushing that shit. And we all know Oregon's not going to enforce it anyway. Maine, very different case study. I believe they have like one pretty big city, Portland. I think the population is less than 2 million. And I mean, if they're going to just decriminalize everything, go see Oregon. Go see what happened. And you might change your mind. But I love all the other things they did. I love how they got rid of the taxes. They lowered the price. And when they lowered the price, it sounds like the volume went through the roof, because it gave people, the opportunity to go in and buy the product that wasn't on the gray or the black market. And that, to me, is fantastic. So I think we should, our state should follow suit. All states should do that. If you're making money on it, you should be able to lower the taxes significantly. So that's surprising to me that they would, lower it, and then the numbers went up revenue wise. But I love it. It's encouraging, man. I think that's awesome. More states should check that out.
I agree, man. I think, for one, I wasn't expecting Maine to bring in $200 million in revenue like that. I mean, that's a lot of stuff. So they diverted a lot of people that were buying black market because of the price was so attractive on, the rec area, that they were going to go buy rec market weed. And then the businesses, they're solving the problems as they come, like, hey, we're getting more growers. We got to be able to lower the price. Motherfuckers ain't making no money off this. So the state said, cool, write off all your employees, your business, your cars, all your deductions that you normally would, and let's go and, see what this market will look like after we implement those laws. So that'll be another one I think that as a nation, we all got to make sure we keep close eyes on, especially in Washington State, because I really think that if Washington and some of these other states like California would enact some of those 280E workarounds, then you would see a lot more prominent businesses. You know what I mean? Like they would still be having their doors open for retail, and some of these
Definitely.
growers would still be having, some of the legacy brands would still exist. All right, fellas. Biden, Joe Biden. Shout out to the Associated Press for this. Biden pardons thousands of convicted cannabis charges on federal lands and in Washington, D.C. President Biden also granted clemency to 11 people that were serving what the White House called a disproportionately long sentence for nonviolent drug offenses. 11 of these guys got released. Thousands of people that have been arrested on federal land. So these are the typical people that were convicted of crimes that were growing like the cartel type shit. You know what I'm saying? On federal lands. That could be applied to that for these national parks. If you're growing illegally on a national park, which is predominantly by, organized criminal activity as well too. Some of those people may have been, I don't know for sure, but I'm assuming some of those people might have been, built into this pardon too.
But I think it's
Biden
going to be
said
mostly service members, though, right?
probably that too. It's probably going to be service members as well as federal employees that lived in D.C. area as well. So there's
Yeah,
probably going
yeah.
to be a handful of those. So yeah, that's a good point. Lastly, Biden said, this is what he says. He says, his actions, would help make the promise of equal justice a reality. What's your thought on that, Kelly?
I mean, it's a step in the right direction. You know, I think it's a
I'm with you.
step in the right direction.
Big time.
I yeah, it's a step in the right direction. There's no, I don't know if I agree with his statement that it's going to somehow bring about this new world order of justice and all this other stuff. I think that's a little too much, but I do think it's an excellent step in the right direction that probably should have been taken 2 administrations ago.
Totally.
But I do think it's excellent. I think it is excellent. I do. I'm interested to see it. It does seem like, to me, it seems like Biden is taking a look at the cannabis issue a little bit more than presidents have in the past, and that makes me, it's starting to make me think that if he gets a second term, he may just go for national legalization.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
It's starting to make me think that way. He's starting to, just the amount of policy initiatives he's just floating out there for drugs and cannabis just kind of makes me feel like, usually presidents wait until their second term to do the really, really controversial policy moves. And I can see it happening. I can see it happening. I don't know if he'll actually get a second term, and I don't really care either way, but I can definitely see it happening now that he's kind of forecasting as much as he is.
I agree, 100%, bro. Steve-O, what you think about this, bro?
Man, dude, it's like Kelly said, it's a huge step in the right direction. So if you're complaining about this, I don't know what to tell you. This is a good step. I wish it would keep progressing to eventually, take care of the what I think is the biggest issue in all of cannabis is the fact that, many of us, including ourselves, pay our bills with this plant and enjoy our lives with this plant. And there are still people rotting in jail right now for doing the same thing that we did. There's something that's not right about that, man. So if this is a step in that direction to get those folks out of prison or get it expunged off their records so they could get better jobs and improve their quality of life, that's huge. That's huge for me. That's huge for, a couple of the, people I'm related to. And I would love to see that. On the other hand, it's also an election year, so let's bust out all these little shiny little laws and things like that. I'm a big fan of it, but the timing of it's pretty interesting. Why didn't you do this when you first showed up in office? Now
when you realize
now
that
you're
was the
doing
right thing to do.
yeah. Did you just realize it was the right thing to do, or is it an election year and you're trying to pump up them numbers, bud? So
Yeah,
I'll take it any way I can get it. I don't care how the sausage gets made in this regard. So I'm happy about it, but I'm also, I also know what you're doing. So yeah, man. Hopefully it progresses into that thing I just talked about. That'd be dope.
I agree, man. I feel both your parts on that one. Your takes on that. Um, so this one's going to be more of a public health announcement, I guess, for this one in Ohio. So any Ohioans out there, you need to pay close attention to this. According to the dispatch.com, issues Ohio issues a recall on medical cannabis edibles over
Whoa.
tamper-proof, over a tamper-proof seal defect. So again, sources of dispatch.com. Smokies sweet tropical fruit gummies. If anybody in the Ohio area has used a medical license that you had to go to one of your local dispensaries there, and you picked up a Smokies with a Z, sweet tropical fruit gummy between the dates of September 15th and December 27th of 2023, go back to your store that you got it from, and they'll get you a new one. They'll get you one free of charge. No matter how many of those that you used or whatever, they should be able to get you reimbursed for it. So the state says that there's zero adverse side effects to your health that have been noted because of this recall. It passed all the testing. The cannabis, the product itself, passed all the testing that it had to, but the problem was the packaging for Smokies. For that one strain, there was a defective seal, and I guess with the defective seal, that opens up the opportunity for someone else to put something else in there, take something out, replace it, eat those edibles, and put regular candy in there, and you're not getting your dosaging appropriately. So it's not a big health concern, but that was something that I wanted to make sure we addressed on the show before we went further. Steve, you got anything you want to add on that one?
Man, I'm with it, man. I may sound like an old man here, but I myself right now, I love edibles. Edibles are my favorite cannabis product right now. I didn't think I'd ever be that way, but man, I'm enjoying them. But they take me to a place like psychedelics do. I can get in a zone to where I'm really up there. And my personal nightmare is that my son somehow gets his hands on it. He's very young and thinks it's a juice or a gummy bear. And I'm really OCD about it, so it'll never happen. But I get it,
Good
man.
point.
I would
Good
rather
point.
be extremely cautious than the polar opposite of that and just putting it in a real easy wrapper, because no kid should be, messing with those edibles, man.
No,
Especially while their
no,
brain's
not
developing.
yeah. Especially a medical cannabis approved edible. It's
Oh
probably a
yeah,
lot stronger.
way
So
stronger.
yeah, that's a good point, man. So yeah, Ohio, make sure you guys are paying close attention to that. That's a huge issue. If you did buy the Smokies, let's see, let's go back again and read which one it was. It was the Smokies Tropical Fruit Gummies from
Are those our
9/15 to
Smokies?
December 27th. Yeah,
Oh yeah. Hey, shout out to Smokies. I love your live resin ones, man. Those are dope, and I love your little cans. Filthy. Great
yep,
product, man. Let's fix that
yep.
packaging.
Yeah, let's just dial this one issue in that you
Just
guys
clean
got
it
in
up.
Ohio. We're good. We just got to clean that up.
Yes, sir. Just gotta touch
So
that up, son.
now we're gonna go back to somewhat of the West Coast. We're gonna go to Nevada. Um, Starting in January 1st of 2024, if you're 21 and up and you purchase cannabis in Nevada, you can now purchase up to 2.5 ounces of flower. You can buy a quarter ounce of concentrates, which is your dabs, your oils, et cetera, your vape pens, your vape carts. Current law right now allows you to buy 1 ounce of flower and 3.5 grams of concentrates. Medical dispensaries also, this is a huge part. So if you have a medical dispensary and you weren't retail rec, you were maybe a medical dispensary for the laws and you didn't get a chance to transition your store for whatever reason to a rec store, now you are able to, let me add Kelly on real quick.
Sorry about that, fellas.
Oh, you're good, brother. You're good. I'll recap it here in just a second, but I'll finish up this last statement I was about to say. So medical dispensaries in Nevada, you can now operate as a recreational dispensary on January 1st. So if you don't have your endorsement as a rec for whatever reason, you can now operate and sell to customers that have a non-medical license. So what I was saying, Kelly, is that in Nevada, starting in January 1st of 2024.
I heard about this one.
Yeah, if you're 21 and up, you're going to have the ability to buy 2.5 ounces of flower and a 1/4 ounce of concentrates now. So, Kelly, we brought you back, bro. What's your thoughts on that? I know you do some business out there in the Nevada market.
I mean, I got to be honest with you. I know retailers in Nevada are not excited about that. A lot of there's a lot of things that keep the Nevada market stable. I think it's a lot to do with the regulations that they have, the very specific regulations that they have. It is also very difficult, honestly, to buy into that market. It costs an extremely large amount of money. And that being said, there's really not that many players in Nevada. So, I do think that, additional retail stores will be met with, probably a fair amount of booze from the retail stores out there. Just because ultimately there's already a store or two or three in just about every city in Nevada. And any large city in Nevada has probably a couple of dozen, or a few dozen. So it's not as if, there's not enough access points. There certainly is. And so, I think on the retail side, they probably won't be as excited, but the producer processor side is going to be stoked. They're going to be pretty happy about this. If the producer processors get access to the entirety of this market, I mean, they're going to be pretty dang happy. Right, because there have been, a number of times where, there has been, far too much product on the market. There has been a few times where they've seen some supply shocks in the wrong direction. Certainly they've seen supply shocks in the direction of shortages, but they've also seen some insane, and I mean like insane levels of overgrowing. I mean, like just overproduction that is very difficult to understand. I remember walking through one facility. I won't put this producer processor on blast because I don't think they're doing super well right now. But I was walking through this facility, and they had a supply room that went underground, right? And they made a big show of taking you into this underground facility that had all these refrigerated, like refrigerated walls, and it was just incredible, right? And it was a gigantic underground facility. It was like it was like being in a nuclear vault, right? This facility, which was probably, maybe 1.5 football fields or so underground, right? This thing was filled with excess supply. Oof. I mean, filled to the brim. And this was all greenhouse and indoor flower. I might have just put that person on blast by saying that. It's greenhouse, indoor, and outdoor. Now you'll never guess. So I mean, it was insanity. I mean, it was the most product I'd ever seen. Just like waiting to be purchased in cannabis. The most I had ever seen, and that includes the supply shocks. Yeah, it's like a silo of cannabis. And I do know that a lot of that had to do with the fact that, retail stores, in Nevada, they can be vertically integrated, right? Which means they can provide and build out their own brands. And so, when there was a supply shock, let's say in the shortage direction, what do you think these vertically integrated entities did, right? They turned within themselves, they started selling their own product, and they certainly avoided a lot of the, overpriced product that was being sold in a shorted market, right? So that behavior never changed. Once you learn, you never forget, right? And so, I can tell you right now, producer processors, knowing that there's going to be, more storefronts that won't have their own brands and won't have their own supply, that'll be a huge boon for all producer processors in that market. And then I think for, customers, I think prices will go down. Now, they won't go down a lot. So customers that are like, oh man, this is going to bring a lot of competition and prices will just crash to the ground. No, they won't do that, because there are certain regulations in place that will definitely prevent, let's say, that kind of competition. So yeah, I think it'll be an interesting rollout. I think it'll be very interesting. And I do think that, it's going to be met with a supply shock. I do think so.
Do you think that there's going to be a lot of customers that's going to be coming into Nevada to go and buy 2.5 ounces of weed at a time?
No.
Because I think that's like the big majority of Nevada is like a tourist attraction. And if I'm going to Vegas for a weekend, unless I'm going for I got a whole bunch of people around, they got a good deal. Who's gonna buy 2.5 ounces of weed in Vegas or Reno or wherever they're gonna have it? But
no,
it's weird. That's strange.
Yeah, and you could just look at the promotions that these stores have. There is a major focus on selling, those kind of high cost single units. So like the higher end disposables or the higher end 8s or the higher end 7 grams or the higher end edibles, right? They have an amazing edible game out there because of the regulations. They've allowed just incredible chefs to come into the game and make some fucking delicious baked goods, some delicious baked goods. But, ultimately people are more interested in that. Right, they're interested in that, like that 1-use, 2-use, 3-use, 4-use item where you're really only consuming it while you're in Vegas, right? And it's probably worth noting that if you talk to enough people who live in Vegas, and I'm sure there's a few of you out there who this doesn't apply to, and to that I say there are exceptions to every rule, but if you talk to enough people in Vegas, certainly people who work in the city, they oftentimes live outside of the city, and they don't often travel into the city. So most of the stores in the city are not for locals. They're really for traveling, they're for tourists, right? And so, the 2-ounce deals and all that kind of stuff, or, all that, buying 2 ounces, that's probably going to be more, I think that'll be probably more commonplace near the border towns or out in the desert towns that are out in the middle of fucking nowhere. Where you're talking about, you're driving an hour to a fucking grocery store or something. Not even, fuck an hour. 2.5 hours to a Costco. 3 hours to a Walmart. So there are areas that, if you live out there, those types of people, when most of the customer data we got, in those areas was, you sell larger sizes and you give people discounts based on the, really the amount of travel that they've done. Right. So the more travel they've done, the larger the discount, the larger amount that they purchase, the higher their average transaction, the more often they shop with you. That's really how we ran it out there. So for like the border towns and all that, this will be an interesting rule. For the strip, man, this is, this is going to be like, a whisper in the wind. No one's going to hear it and no one's going to care. So.
Nice. Steve, you got anything you want to add to that?
Man, it's hard to follow that shit, Kelly. Damn, there's no meat on that bone after that shit. Damn. I feel the same way Kelly does, bro. The retailers are gonna take it in the what. if all those open up. And we've already seen this happen. Where have we seen this happen? We've seen this happen in Oregon. And let me tell you what, if you love cannabis and you hate money, open a retail store in Oregon and see what happens. Because there is no cap on those things. And they're like Starbucks. They're on every single corner. And Kelly's exactly right.
True.
The producer
True.
processors, like myself, oh man, they be licking their chops, and they should be. So it's gonna go the other way. You know, these retailers, man, enjoy that money while you're getting it right now, because it's good. But as soon as they open that faucet and let all these other cats come into the pantry, ooh, you're gonna have to
Problems.
sharpen that pencil, buddy.
You're gonna
You're gonna
have.
need to
It's,
you need to build up
it's
that
gonna be
business
looking like
acumen.
you remember back in the day in WrestleMania and the Summer Slams and shit. They got there's another contestant coming in. There goes another one.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah, so
another one.
oh yeah,
That's
that's
what it's
exactly
gonna
what.
look like.
Yeah,
Yep.
but they
Yep.
ain't gonna be able to fit in the ring. They're gonna just be spilling out of it. There's too many.
Hell in a cell.
Exactly, dog. Yeah,
So
man.
check this one out. This is a pretty cool one I found here. Um, it was titled "How the Nation's Six Newest Adult Use Cannabis Markets Perform in 2023, with Market Projections for 2024." Hold on, we got a guest. Oh no, we lost him. All right. So our source for this was the Cannabis Business Times. Shout out to you for a great article. So for starters, they went into New York, didn't chew them out, but they laid out some facts to them, basically. New York was expected to make $1 billion this year. At the start of 2023, that's what everyone forecasted. All the great experts were like, New York is going to be $1 billion industry by December 31st, 2023. Nope, they weren't even the top dog, not even close. So the top dog, ironically, was Massachusetts. They brought in $1.6 billion in adult use sales so far. New York, not even number two on this list, not even number three. That belongs to Missouri and Maryland, or so how some people like to call it, Missouri and Maryland. Freshmen coming in heavy, beating out New York. Uh, and we all know the reason why was because there was a rollout that was delayed, that was heavily in court. Veterans sued, other people that didn't get licenses sued, and it was held up in court just up until this month. So interesting numbers though as we start to go into some other states. So the other states that opened, of course, we talked about Connecticut. We talked about how they were having a really slow rollout and what their problems was on a couple previous shows about how Connecticut's issue basically is, they have a few retailers that, are controlling the market, that are MSOs, multi-state operators that look like they were kind of putting everything at a bottleneck in the industry. Next to them was also Rhode Island and Vermont open. So let's go to Missouri. They commenced in February 3rd of 2023 with adult sales. They're on pace right now to eclipse $1 billion. Missouri
Damn.
is. Dog. Check this out. Out of that, there was an additional, not included, not a breakdown. Additionally, there was another $300 million on top of that 1.6, or that, what was it? Was it 1.6? Yeah, no, on top of that 1 billion. So they're 1.3 total in cannabis sales. 300 million of that is from medical sales as well. Maryland, they're on pace right now for 325 million. But they only started 6 months ago.
Damn.
So if they would have stayed the year, they would have been around close to $700 million, on pace to hit that $1 billion market. Uh, so yeah, right now Maryland's about 450 million in additional medical sales on top of that number too, which is
Yeah.
insane. So their medical market is still bringing in a couple $100 million for that state each year. Med sales also allowed med shops to convert to rec shops, just like Nevada did. So in Maryland, they said the same thing. They were going to allow these medical shops to be grandfathered in. other states in the Northeast. So the actual number that New York has hit is 144 million so far. Connecticut is at 143 million. Vermont is at 103 million. Rhode Island is at 74 million. And here's the population numbers. This is crazy about it. New York's population right now is currently sitting at 19.5 million residents in the state. All the other 5 states combined is 18 million. Your thoughts on that, Steve?
Well, we see where all the action is on that. I mean, that's not terribly surprising. Vermont surprised me a little bit. That seems like a good number for them. I don't think I can name one city out that way. So, man, cool to see cannabis going up and down in every new market, man. For me, it's like a new toy every time a new state rolls that out. So I get excited. I know you do too. And there's still a lot of them out there that haven't done it. And I'm a nerd for this, just like I am for football and basketball. I love it when you're talking numbers with these states.
I know. I can see you drooling over there.
Yeah, man. I love it. It gives me juice, man. And I love to see all those stats. And, man, that's a lot of people crammed into New York. I bet you about 18 million of those live in New York City. So
they have a bigger population than all 5 of those other states combined. And they're still sitting on wild. 1.5 million extra people on top of that.
Yeah. That is crazy. We got to get out that way, but I just love to see the industry doing numbers, man. And
Massachusetts, though, what's your thoughts on that? 1.6 million or 1.6 billion for Massachusetts.
That's a mature market. I believe they came 3rd after us in Colorado. They were shortly after. I remember you were telling me when they first opened.
We'll get to that. There's an update on that.
Really?
There's a new contender.
Oh shit. Oh yeah, man. I mean, it's an older market, so I know Boston and the Massachusetts area has a pretty good economy, and that doesn't really surprise me. I am surprised they beat our state. So they must be doing something right out there, man. That's a great number for a state. How many people live in Massachusetts? It doesn't seem like
that. I don't have the number off the top of my head, but it's definitely not a New York. And New York brought in 144 million, and they're only been open for a month, which is pretty damn good. So they're going to they're going to be sitting there at $1 billion, projection for the next year, based off of those numbers. But I mean, Missouri, Maryland, Massachusetts, the 3 M's are just controlling the Northeast right now.
3 M's making M's. I like that. Damn.
Missouri's
surprising, bro. Missouri surprised the shit out of me. I know they have like Branson. That's a big tourist thing. I've been through St. Louis, and it's a typical metropolis-like city. But I didn't know they had juice like that over there in their wallets. That's very surprising to me.
Maryland included. Yeah.
Yeah.
Kelly, what's your thoughts on this?
I don't know if I'm super surprised about the number, really. I mean, it's like Steve said, it's a mature market. But a lot of states we're talking about also just have good regulations too, which also help the growth of your market. That's certainly helpful. It's like we were talking about there with New York. New York, they struggled in so many ways. The rollout, sure, but I mean, honestly, some of their regulation is not the best. It really is not the best for the beginnings of a cannabis industry. So I don't think I'm too surprised. I do think Missouri is interesting just because the demographics of that area doesn't seem like it would have like there would be a flourishing cannabis market there. But I think perhaps what we need to do is just change our definition of what a flourishing cannabis market looks like. And I don't know if 1.6 billion or 2 billion or 3 billion. I don't know if that's where it'll end, right? I think if it matures for another 5 to 10 years, I think 1.6 will seem low. Will seem low to us in many ways. I think that certainly after national legalization, I would think that every state is at least worth about 1.5, 1.6 billion.
Yeah.
I would think so.
Just looking at the Missouri numbers again, I mean, they're at 1.3 billion. 300 million of that is from their rec sales, and they opened the beginning of February.
Oh my God,
bro! Yeah, and this number was brought to this article at the end of November, so it doesn't include December stats for Missouri.
That's something I would expect out of Ohio or Pennsylvania.
That number. So that quick. To me, that tells me a couple things. That tells me, one, they have a very striving interstate market, because a lot of that money, that 300 million additional money, is coming from their medical market. That means those are people that really need to be able to have it for a therapeutic purpose. They could automatically go to any shop and get it for probably a pretty damn good deal. Sounds like, since the market is, indicating that. But for them to be able to still carry their license for whatever their regulation is, that would probably tell me that these other states need to be able to look into what Missouri is doing for their medical program, because it's attracting people still, and they're spending their dough still on the medical sales. So that'll be something I'm kind of interested in kind of doing some more research on.
Yeah, me too.
For a place like Missouri, I even though oftentimes it's far more complex than this, I'd have to just use Occam's razor here, because essentially Missouri, just given where they're at in the country, who borders them? Aren't they bordered by like Kansas? And hold on, I think they're bordered by Kansas. Yeah, so they're bordered by Kansas.
Yeah. Oh, we lost our guy, man.
But to me, I look at that and I think to myself, yeah, I look at that and I think you've probably got a pretty incredible amount of interstate cannabis going on there.
I would think so, man. Yeah, that's a great point.
Exactly. I mean, an extreme amount. I mean, I think that's like what, 6 states? It's like 6 or 7 states. That's a lot. I mean, that's a lot of fucking people.
They are, and I mean,
right. And I would bet. Well, I would bet that the border stores there are some of the highest performing stores. The ones closest to Kentucky or Arkansas or some of these other states.
Sure. Oh, yeah.
Absolutely. Speaking of border states, I saved this one for you guys. Do you guys know, could you guess who the top 3 top grossing states are right now?
California, Massachusetts, man, and us.
Okay. What about you?
That's my guess, just off the top of my head.
All right.
I don't know, actually. I don't know. I mean, just hearing the Missouri numbers now, I'm not really able to functionally guess.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's why I say this one for last.
Yeah, I can't. I could just throw out just a random guess. I would think California is one of the top ones given their population. I would think that maybe Massachusetts.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, I guess I would go Washington. Is Florida in full swing yet?
I'll get back to you on that. I don't know.
They're just medical, right?
They're just medical. Yeah,
I believe so.
No,
okay, then my third guess will be Washington, but it really should be Florida, and they should probably be like 2 on the list.
It should go California, New York, Florida once everything's popping.
So,
and then Texas. Yeah.
Shout out to Farm Doc Daily for this. Very, very informative article. I highly recommend everybody check it out that listens to this about what we're about to talk about. So the top 3, we'll just cover that real quick. California, Michigan, and Illinois.
Oh,
So this
dang! I forgot.
this is about this article
Michigan,
is about the
huh?
emerging yeah. This article is about the
Oh,
emerging cannabis market in Illinois. Shout out again to the Farm Doc Daily. Independent, look like they're not a national syndicated news company or no stuff like that. But what they did was come out with a lot of diagrams to be able to show what and how Illinois is booming. So a lot of this stuff I can talk about, but I would recommend all the viewers to go and check it out on the Farm Doc Daily, farmdocdaily.com. So yeah, Illinois is the third largest market in the U.S. California's number
okay,
one.
Chicago.
Michigan's number two. Illinois averages 120 to 140 million dollars monthly.
Okay, Illinois. Shit, man. I see
A
you.
quarter of their sales comes from out-of-state residents from Indiana,
I was just
Iowa,
about to say that.
Kentucky, and Wisconsin, which are all border states that remain illegal. So a quarter of their revenue comes from all of those, 5, 6 states right there, Indiana, Iowa, Kentucky, and Wisconsin. Yeah, so 4 of those. So the only bordering state that's legal that Illinois shares, that's legal, mind you. Because remember, we're in Washington. We have California, we got Oregon. So the only one that touches them for legal is Missouri.
Damn.
And we just beat Missouri up
That's
about
crazy,
how
man.
they're crushing it. So yeah, the only border
That's
state
wild.
is Missouri. And
So really, so this article should have like one sentence in the top that should just say TLDR, right?
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
States that border other states that are illegal
Right.
do better.
Yeah. do way better. They just skip everybody else. So let's see, Missouri, I think they're like number 5 or 6 somewhere around. They're touching Washington numbers already, and they've only been open since February. And even though Missouri is their only bordering state, that did knock Illinois off of being number 3. So if Missouri wasn't legalized, they would be number 1. They would beat California in sales, because they would have all of those sales too from Missouri.
Damn, dude.
And they just had interference with their revenue starting in February of this year, fellas. So,
Missouri.
I think it makes sense to me. That makes sense.
Yeah, it makes total sense.
Because who's California border?
I didn't. Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah, all the other ones that are putting up real estate signs for cannabis licenses. So this is crazy, man. So check this out. They already are concerned about this, right? And the people for the Farm Doc Daily, they're like, look, Illinois is going to lose some sales when these markets are going to come online, and so they're like, they're just waiting for this to happen. Illinois knows it. And they're just making so much money off of these bordering states that nobody is really covering this shit. I don't know if they're blocking it or not reporting about this, but the only place that really had the prosperity of Illinois is this document, this website. So Illinois' average per gram, remember we're talking about $7 over in, where were we at? In, what state was that? We're talking about $7 per gram in one of the other states. So Illinois' average per gram is $9.47 as of November of 23.
Damn.
Michigan, who's number 2 in the state. You guys want to guess real quick what you think that may be? What their
average gram?
5 to 6.
On the shelf?
If Illinois is $9.47, what do you think Michigan's average would be if they're number 2
on the shelf?
In the country? Yeah.
Well, that's really interesting though, because Michigan market doesn't actually sell a lot of grams unless it's deli style. So that would be almost impossible to track. So I don't know where they're getting that data from.
This is just the average.
Okay, just
like if it's an eighth, it's just the average price that the customers are paying for an eighth in Michigan.
Yep.
That's it actually might be higher than you think, Steve, because of the because they do Keystone.
Yeah, I was thinking wholesale. My bad.
Throw me a number out there. What you guys think?
Go ahead.
Price of the average gram. God, they're still
If Illinois
overpriced on
is at
flower.
if Illinois is at 947, where do you think Michigan's is at? And California's is extremely higher.
I'm gonna say $8.
Okay.
8 something.
All right.
And I gotta roll too soon, fellas. I gotta go push some dope.
Yeah, I do too. But I'm gonna put it at like 530.
Okay, that's a great guess. It's actually 344.
I should have just guessed lower. Fuck it.
Wow.
Yeah, so they have these things called a craft and a cultivation center. So that's basically their producer, processor, and then processor, basically. So, the average gram when it's transferred from the cultivation centers to the retailers is at 344. So that's included with that's wholesale right there. That's not their retail price with it. So I'm guessing it's going to be a little bit higher than that, but they say that it really doesn't pay the retailers too much mind for the average cost on these, because they're going to probably come around about $5-6. So,
bro, it's Keystone.
Yeah, true.
So the max in Michigan. It depends. If you're vertical, it's much different. But let's just take out vertical real quick and just say you're a retailer who is buying from a producer processor, because this is what this average is based on. I'm assuming, because I'm assuming the vertically integrated ones are sliced out of the average because they're not the average, I would suspect. But I mean, it was very often, it was common for us to see multipliers that ranged from effectively 1.1 to 2.3, right? With most multipliers falling below 2x. They don't even use the word multiplier out there, which I always thought was kind of funny. They just say, what's your percentage of markup, right? They don't even use that word out there. It's not in their lexicon. So if someone's buying it at, let's say, around $5, let's say they're buying it at 3 something a gram, you're buying it, let's say you get an eighth at like $10 or something. That's going to go out, I'm not shitting you, between $11 and $23. In most cases where retailers are bunched up together, which is most places, since they just gave out fucking retail licenses to everybody who had a pencil and a fucking piece of paper, you're talking about, probably somewhere between $11 and $14 for that eighth that you just paid $10 for.
Jesus. Wow.
Yep.
Steve, I know you got to get ready to roll, brother. Real quick, your thoughts on this, and then also any shout outs that you need to give before you got to get ready to get up out of here.
Man, yeah, just again, man, Kelly nailed it. I was really surprised by that. I must have forgot about Chicago. Illinois is about the only place we've never done business in, so it's kind of it's kind of at the back of my mind. But Michigan is very surprising. I didn't think their economy would support a third place finish here, which is awesome and encouraging. It just goes back to the fact that I'm proud to be in this industry, man. This is the best and easiest thing I've ever sold in my life, and I love it. But yeah, any takes I got: Seahawks over Steelers. My Lakers won. That's good. We got March Madness around the corner. Go Gonzaga. And man, appreciate you guys hooking this show up, hooking the viewers up, and rolling with me, man.
I like it, man. I like it. Any way people find you, or you still stand hidden?
Hey, you can find me right here. You can find me at the goodkarmagroup.com and SRG509 on Twitter. You can find me.
Oh man,
that's
you
about
Twitter
it.
Out.
That's
okay.
About,
okay.
Yeah, we're gonna have to edit that out. But yeah. Yeah, man. You can find me in the Cookie League from 3 to 6 tonight too. Shit. So
there you go. Right on. Yeah, shout out to them, man. Right on. You're gonna be making a special appearance over there.
Yep.
Yeah, man. I like it. Well, man, what about you, Kelly? How about any lasting thoughts about the new year, the emerging market, This is a good way to end the year. I think this is a great episode to be able to have, especially with the new year approaching. We can be able to reflect on the year. And then any shout outs that you want to give.
2021 could be described as a year of disruption, right? 2022 could be described as a year of disruption. 2023 could be described as a year of disruption. So it'll be interesting to see if the world continues the trend and moves towards further disruption, or reverses that trend and maybe starts to settle down a little bit. With everything going on in the world, I'm probably, my bet is probably on the former than the latter, but it'll be an interesting year. I think it'll be an interesting year rife with opportunities, as there's always opportunity when disruption hits markets or hits our society, right? I don't really have too much to say. I don't really have very many shout outs. I mean, shout out to all the people that we met, I suppose, at MJ BizCon, and shouts to, some of the folks that have been doing business with us over these last few years. Certainly out in the Washington State area. I know that we've weathered some insane supply storms, man. Shouts to all of you for keeping up and keeping active and keeping driven, because I know it's pretty tough. And yeah, man, you guys, y'all are all gonna have to find me on here. If you want to hear my annoying ass voice, man, you're gonna have to come right here and hear the rasp. You ain't gonna hear it nowhere else. Ain't gonna be on Instagram, ain't gonna be on Facebook. I don't do a lot of social media, man. It's basically my phone, and every once in a while a podcast with some of these guys here that frankly I love talking to more than just about anybody else.
Absolutely.
And that's about it. I hope you guys have a wonderful New Year's. I certainly will. I've got a whole dinner planned and everything, man. I'm looking to start cooking here pretty soon. So I'm pretty excited. So I'm hoping all you guys are too. Try to make sure that you guys stay healthy and safe, man, because I'm gonna blow up some mortar shells and some M80s, man. I tell you what, I'm gonna keep all my digits. So I hope y'all do too.
There you go. There you go. That's the best karma you could give right there. I don't have too much else to add to that, but hopefully you guys all make it to your destination safely. I'm just parked out in my office, I call it. So, but I think that when we go into 2024, we're like Kelly talked about, we're going to see some disrupting states, some disrupting products, disrupting markets. Just be ready to pivot, and I think that's the best mantra to be able to take from the information that we discussed here. Is a lot of states are adopting different rules, different regulations. You're going to have some new players in the industry. There's going to be some new markets that are making a shit ton of money that don't know what to do with it. So time to get busy. Time to start getting, your leverage points out there and get as many contacts as you can with, these big markets, because they're going to start turning into even bigger markets. And these little Oh, there we go.
He's back.
I'm back. Yeah. So anyway, blessings to everybody. Hopefully my two co-hosts you guys are having a good New Year. I know I'm going to talk to you guys probably daily anyway, but let's make sure that we ended on a good note with this. And Steve, you have a good vendor day.
Somebody roll the weed is my song. I wanna get higher than the motherfucker. Somebody roll the weed. I wanna get higher than the motherfucker. Somebody roll the weed. I wanna get higher than a motherfucker. Tell them what you want to get. I want to get high.
Happy New Year.